What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean.
Welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. Big show this morning. Our sponsor, the Bell Project. We have a special guest from the Bell Project this morning to talk about tax day and cash bail. Another of those billions and billions of reasons to eliminate cash bail in this old system of things. We also sponsored by the March On Pact, a women-led organization that is trying to save democracy by picking the strongest, boldest, and the most in-your-face Democratic candidates out there. Lots going on. Like I said, we have a guest this morning to talk about cash bail and income tax season. Of course, the deadline to file your taxes is, oh gosh, it's in 2 days. So we're gonna get into all of that. Of course, the president, his blockade. Well, I think somebody said it best, and that somebody happens to be RNG. He says the blockade is working like a blind man driving, and it ain't happening. Ships from China are passing through that strait like he boils crawfish, nice and easy. Yeah, it's and then this tariff that didn't the Supreme Court or at least the courts. I thought the Supreme Court went along with the lower courts that these tariffs were illegal. And so, as this goes on, and the whole situation with the strait, um, expect $10 a gallon gas prices. Expect your loaf of bread to be uh, $8 or $9. Eggs again to be $25. This is what's been the norm now. Rising prices, lower pay. This has been the norm in this administration, unfortunately. And so folks are having to deal with so much, and this war that the body language from this administration, from the president, from JD Vance, from Hesketh, the body language tells you all you need to know, that they know that they bit off more than they could chew. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And Trump went off on the Supreme Court. Good morning, Dr. Nicole. Dr. Nicole, you got to come with us to see the Michael movie on opening night. Um, but the body language seems to suggest that they know that they're in over their heads, and it's like you hear the teasing coming from other nations, particularly Russia, who was saying that they can't even handle Iran. We knew it. They thought they could walk in on Iran, and no, no, you. This is a nation, and I've said it before, Iran, that have long held the most the deepest of hatred for the United States. They wasn't just going to roll over. And you got to believe, after all these years, they have been preparing for something like this. You have to believe it. All right. I know, Dr. Nicole, you plan to see. I'm asking you, you want to come with us for the opening night? All right, now, 8:45 IMAX. I meant to call you and ask you that. Look, I'm having a conversation. um, but this war is it's going to drag on, and nobody really sees an end to it. But I tell you what, We see an end to our money. That's for sure. And meanwhile, I saw and I was wondering why DL was going hard on, Democrats, I see I s I got to learn what he was talking about, and he was talking about, um, the situation with Eric Swalwell, among others. And, he has resigned. He said he's going to resign from, Congress after the allegations of sexual misconduct were reported last week. It came after, he suspended his gubernatorial campaign. And also, you saw where, Rep. Tony Gonzalez, a Republican out of Texas, who also had been, hounded by allegations that he had an affair with a staffer who later died by suicide. He said he's going to retire. But Swalwell, the Democrat, had maintained, professed, profusely said nothing of the sort happened. Then it becomes, okay, why are you stepping down? And Democrats did not help. And one of the things that Lauren Live always talks about is Democrats in their hatred toward the system of due process. Immediately, all of these Democrats, before knowing any facts, oh, he must resign, he must resign. That an allegation indeed becomes a conviction to them. It is such a dangerous, dangerous mindset. And it doesn't mean you don't believe the victim. It just means that there is this thing called due process. But Swalwell seems to want to have it both ways. And Swalwell, you know, profusely denies, but then he puts out this statement that makes you wonder. He says, "I am deeply sorry to my family, staff, and constituents for mistakes in judgment I've made in my past. I will fight the serious false allegations made against me. However, I must take responsibility and ownership for the mistakes I did make." So is he saying that, yes, I did do something, but it was consensual? Is that what you're saying? Because that's what it seems to be saying, that he now believes it was consensual. Now you have to question him. You have to question whether or not, he was lying. Mike Reese says, "What's interesting is that the president has massive evidence against him in the Epstein files, and no." Exactly, and this is D.L. Hughley's. I think that was part of his point. No one is asking him to step down. Heck, he's been, found liable by a civil jury for, twice for sexual assault. In fact, he was, penalized $90+ million. And yes, I talked about this with Lauren as well, RNG. The Democrats did the same thing to Al Franken from Minnesota. Republicans don't care. Well, I mean, what's that? Gosh, Jordan, Jim Jordan, and others, and all of the allegations against folks like that. And you remember Marjorie Taylor Greene, while she was still in the House, said, warned her Republicans about her being able to drop dime on all of them, but they simply don't care. Democrats, on the other hand, it's not that you should accept anyone who is, engaged in the behavior that's alleged with Eric Swalwell, but Democrats, on the other hand, they jump immediately to this, "We we have to be, the party of, uh, right and justice and dignity," and they have none. They simply have none. And DL, one of Matt Gaetz, there you go. Um, and one of the things he pointed to, and we talked about this a lot, in the black press, the appointment Joe Biden made of Merrick Garland, because it was, the, uh, so-called right thing to do, because, it It's about unifying everyone. They, as Hughley said, they live in an America that doesn't exist because had he had Biden selected a attorney general worth that spot, worthy of that title, uh, he probably would still be president, or perhaps even Kamala Harris would be president, or at least somebody else would be president, and there's no 2 ways about that. But the Democrats continue to, and this is why you have so many, folks, we get on, and rightfully so, the Chili's of the world and the Nick Cannons of the world, whatever, but this only feeds those beasts. That's when they do stuff like that, that's just that's just how it goes. It's, uh, Dr. Nicole says, Republicans know their reps are despicable people, but like you said, they don't care. All they care about is that the person helps them meet their political agenda. That's it. That's it. And Merrick Garland, the RNG says, will go down as the worst AG next to Pam Bondi. And it's really says a lot when you are in the same sentence, right? As Pam Bondi. Because even Donald Trump was like, you know what, enough is enough. Enough is enough with Pam. But yeah, I mean, Merrick Garland, by far, horrible attorney general. Just absolutely horrible. Now, we're gonna go return to that tragedy in Tanzania. Ashley fiance, Joe McCain, before her death. Um, more information has come out now saying that they were indeed in a dispute. And local law enforcement there now say it's part of an active investigation. According to the regional police commander there, the couple had a falling out at the luxury resort in Zuri, Zanzibar, with hotel staff stepping in and
Rest in peace
separating
to
them.
Ashley Janae. She passed
Separating
away
them.
over the weekend, unfortunately.
Separating them, folks. That means there was a physical altercation with them. And the situation escalated to the point where staff had to alert authorities with concerns raised about her well-being. This is all coming out now. Her family said Ashley was found unconscious in her villa and she was rushed to a hospital. Police say she died the following day, Friday the 10th. And then it was classified as suicide immediately, apparently, anyway. But Ashley's father says that that was the early narrative from the police, the suicide. Now he's stressing that the family is involved and the investigation is ongoing. The father says that they've been in contact with the embassy and the funeral director, and as of now, there's still no official ruling on her cause of death. And here's the and then not certainly is not deserving of what she got, but I was going there, Mike V. This is a woman who made some very, very controversial and nasty posts about black men. And thus he's dated this white man. And I mean, listen, I have no issues with interracial marriages whatsoever. No issues. You love who you love, as they say. But then you want to put down men of a certain race, in this case, black men, because perhaps you had a couple of relationships that didn't work out. And then this darker skinned black women at that, and you go all in the way that folks on social media said you've been going all in on black men. And then this happens, and then this happens. Orange G says, "Oh yeah, he killed her," and some black people on the internet are minding their black owned business like me. Yeah, it's give me a break. And see, it's all good in the hood until I started to wonder, did the N word come into play, among other things. But yeah, you still feel sorry for her family. She, you know, decided to take this route, and unfortunately, now she is no longer among the living. Um, speaking of the economy and speaking of all of the hardships that are going on, 7-Eleven is closing a lot of stores, folks. Yes, they will close more than 600 stores this year as it moves to what they call larger wholesale location. They announced 1,300 new locations by 2030 last year, and they had planned 200 new locations in the same period. But they confirmed they're closing 645 convenience stores, including as part of its transition to wholesale fuel stores. They say the new store format will feature a larger product assortment and expanded food and beverage offerings. So what they've been doing, according to C Store Dive, which tracks this stuff, they're opening and closing stores. They're closing more than what they're opening. So there's a huge net difference. For instance, this year they expect to have open 122 stores but close 373. And next year, for instance, they are expected to open 205 stores but close 645. So 7-Eleven going through its issues, and folks are obviously it's going to mean job loss. RG mentions that his white women going on trial in August for killing her black male boyfriend, and he dogged out black women. I am still minding my black owned business. Yeah, yeah. That stuff tends to backfire, doesn't it? In the worst of ways. Um, again, you feel sorry for them in the sense, of course, in the sense that they lost their lives. It feels bad for their families. Um, but when you go off on this crusade, and decide your name is Tim Scott or Byron Donalds, uh, unfortunately, this is one of the fates that await you. Not all the time, but obviously we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing too much of it. And there's RNG's bottom line. Like I said, I have zero issue with interracial marriage, but when you got to put down black folks to justify you being with a white man, then you got an issue. It should not. You should never have to put down black folks to justify you being with a white man. It should simply be for, he's cool, etc., etc. But it seems like this was more about making a statement. And now look where that statement has gotten her. I know it could sound kind of harsh, but you know, let's be real here. Let's be real about it. It's the way it is. I'm gonna switch gears before we get to our guest. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction um, for 2026 have been announced, and Sade, Luther Vandross, Wu Tang were among those to be inducted this year. Three other notable inductees: Queen Latifah, Fela Kuti, I guess, and MC Light received notice that they are being inducted into the early influence wing. All the performers voted in this year include Bill Collins, Billy Idol, Iron Maiden, New Order, Oasis, Sade, as we said, Luther Vandross on his first ballot. Luther got in, and Wu-Tang. Um, Now some are chirping because you know who was left out. Mariah Carey, New Edition, and Lauryn Hill were all left out. And that's a surprise. New Edition to me is the biggest of surprises because the momentum and the wave that they're riding right now, and of course the career they've had, you'd think that they'd be included right now. And I know folks like their Mariah Carey. I never liked her. Wu Tang. Now I will watch, says Orange G. Yes, they are going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm pretty sure Gene Simmons is probably somewhere using all types of foul language right now. Foul language. Oh gosh. Well, we're gonna have a special guest in a moment, but I'm gonna have a little fun before we get to our special guest. Of course, everybody's been talking about can't get away from the Michael movie, but I want to go. Yesterday, I alluded to the Shula King, and y'all gotta hear and watch. If you never watched Shula King, he's a great uh, comedian. You got his comedy, I should say, is a little different, but you gotta check this out as he talks about that guy on the screen.
Ladies and gentlemen, somebody please tell me, what is Jermaine Jackson doing? Like, what is he up to? Like, I have talked about Jermaine before. I'm getting tired of, at this point for me to be saying stuff like, oh, his hair is this, but this, he came, like, we all know the Michael Jackson movie premiere was recently, and the movie's coming out. People are excited, but Jermaine, you're doing a lot. Like, you always on some BS because of the hair, but like, I don't understand. I don't understand the makeup situation. Like, I'm gonna just say it. I don't understand why you went and got your face beat. Jermaine, let's stop. I don't know if we need to intervene. I don't know what we need, but we have to. This needs to stop, Jermaine.
He needs to stop.
We need to cut this part out.
I listen, as someone who knew this man very well for a long time, I'm also at a loss as to what he's doing. The hair has always been his thing, and now you got everything else going on there, which it's just the Jermaine I knew. That just seems a bit far fetched, and if like Shula King said, maybe an intervention is is needed. I don't know. He says I thought Jermaine had a motorcycle helmet on. I didn't think that was his hair. Yeah, I I'm at a loss. Jermaine is what, 71 years old? Truly at a loss there. You know, we're not you know, close anymore. We're not friends anymore. So I can't, it's not like I can reach out to him and say, hey, say anything to him at this point. Um, but this is where family comes in, right? This is where family comes in. Oh my gosh. I just think that that stardom, the celebrity, and now they're back in the spotlight again. And I know it's been a while since the Jacksons have been in the spotlight. And now we see this. And speaking of Hollywood, folks, this is going on. You know, that merger, the huge merger that's happening. Well, Bryan Cranston, Jane Fonda, Joaquin Phoenix, and more than 1,000 other Hollywood professionals released an open letter Monday opposing Paramount Skydance's takeover of Warner Brothers Discovery. They argued that the corporate tie-up would hurt an industry already under severe strain. They say in a letter that, quote, this transaction would further consolidate an already concentrated media landscape, reducing competition at a moment when our industries and the audiences we serve can least afford it. They called on they posted this to a website called Block the Merger. And they say the results will be, of course, fewer opportunities for creators, fewer jobs across the production ecosystem, higher costs, and less choice for audience in the United States and around the world. Alarmingly, this merger, they say, would reduce the number of major U.S. film studios to just 4. Others who signed include Glenn Close, Ben Stiller, and more. So we will see how far that goes. But that's the state of things as of right now. All of Hollywood basically is saying we don't want this merger. But I just can't imagine them being able to stop this now. And speaking of Hollywood, and before we get to our guest this morning, we're looking forward to a great discussion with Cameron Pipe of the Bell Project. John Leguizamo, one of my favorite actors who I had the pleasure of meeting, was on recently with the Breakfast Club, and he had some interesting things to say. Let's check out a little piece of that right now.
Now, what's something about Hollywood that you used to accept that you'd never tolerate now?
I used to accept all white movies, all white movies, all white events. You know, that was just like, you thought, I guess there's not enough of us, or we're just not good enough to be there, you know. But now I don't accept that anymore. I won't go see a movie that's all white. I just won't, because we were in history. Latin and Black people we've been here since the conquest and before. We you know, like, I used to love Mad Men, but then I was like, what? There's not one Latin person. Come on, in the 60s, you had West Side Story in the 50s. There's not one Latin person you could have thrown into that series, and I love that series. But then I felt so left out and so excluded and erased. In my New York City, when salsa was happening and Latin jazz was happening, there was none of that you could have squeezed into your Mad Men. You know, so yeah, all white shows are out for me.
See, that's an interesting take on things. It's a very interesting take, and in some ways, you certainly can argue that he's right. That it could have been a Latino, could have been an African American, et cetera, et cetera. There's talent there's white talent, there's Black talent, there's Latino talent. I don't know that you can just say, just because a movie is all white or all Black or all Latino or whatever, you don't want to see it. So in some ways, I mean, you guys chime in. Some ways I have to disagree there. Love John Leguizamo. think he's one of the best actors there is. But I have to kind of disagree a little bit. I think you have to have more of an open mind. Now, the part about just not using folks, if it's simply because of their race or ethnicity, you decide not to use them, that's a problem. You want to base it on talent. Well, folks, as Americans across the country scramble to file their taxes this week, we're going to take a look at what or where that money actually goes. Joining us now is Cameron Pipe, the Deputy Director of Operations at the Bell Project. Cameron is here to pull back the curtain on a $14 billion line item in our local budgets that most people never see: the cost of jailing legally innocent people simply because they can't afford to pay for their freedom. Cameron, welcome to Let It Be Known.
Great. Good morning. Thank you so much, Stacey. Happy to be here.
Good to have you guys. The work that you do is phenomenal, and we continue to, on a daily basis, tell our audience what a phenomenal job you guys do and how much you mean to. I think it's over 40,000 families now that have been beneficiaries of the great work of the Bell Project and counting. Now, let me ask you, Cameron, before we get into the conversation, I just mentioned something about the Bell Project. What is your role there? Tell us a little bit about the Bell Project and your role.
Yeah, thanks so much. So my name is Cameron Pipe. I'm Deputy Director of Operations here at the Bell Project. Really what that means is I oversee our kind of boots on the ground work, where we're actually paying Bell for our clients. We're helping support them in the pretrial space, right? Being able to go up to court. Maybe that's a transportation support or advocacy they need to be able to make it back to their court date or to a social service provider. And kind of as you mentioned in our introduction today, to date, we've been able to do that for over 40,000 people. So, our largest goal is ensuring, improving that freedom really should be free, and that you don't need to end up putting a price tag on the person's freedom to ensure that they make it back to court.
Man, needless to say, well said. Putting the price tag on a person's freedom. You are here today, of course, to talk about a little known way our tax dollars are being spent jailing legally innocent people. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah. So one of the things about incarceration is it costs. And every single year, just in the pretrial context, we're talking about an industry that's a $14 billion cost to taxpayers to keep local jails full of legally presumed innocent people. And so the thing about incarcerating one person pretrial for a year is that it actually costs an average of $47,000 to keep that person confined in that cell. And when you end up multiplying that by the hundreds of thousands of people that are sitting in jail right now, just to use their poor, that math is really staggering. And really what we would consider that to be is a poverty tax. So if you have the money to go home, you're awarded that opportunity. You get to go home. But if you don't, the taxpayer ends up picking up that bill to further incarcerate these legally presumed innocent people.
Cameron, your sound keeps going down low. If you could talk into the microphone more, that would be very cool. Can you, again, every year taxpayers spend this, $14 billion to keep people in. Good Lord, that's a lot of money, Cameron. And they're legally presumed innocent, right?
Yes, absolutely. Legally presumed innocent people, individuals that have not yet had their opportunity to fight their case with their attorney in court. And these are folks that we have end up sitting in, hundreds of thousands of people sitting in jails across the country right now, waiting for their day in court to be able to defend themselves. But many of them being there, right, because they cannot afford to purchase their freedom.
And so the Bell Project steps in. Tell us a little bit about how you step in, what you do.
Yeah. So when we have an opportunity to be able to provide some support to someone, we end up paying that full cash bail for them. That's something that the organization first has to do in order to secure that freedom. We do not charge our clients any money. Whenever that deposit is made to the court, one of the really interesting things about it is as long as the client makes it back to each of their court appearances, we actually get that money back and we reuse it to serve more people. So that's why we've been able to serve over 40,000 people up until this point, is by recycling that money. But we don't stop there, right? Whenever we get someone back into the community, back to their family, we support them with rides to court, we support them with social service referrals and court notifications to make sure that they're actually able to know when court is upcoming. Many jurisdictions do not have a court notification system. And so that's one of the things that we feel to be really critical to the work that we do. And that enables us to keep doing it, and why we've been successful over these, over a half a decade now.
Yeah, and I want to go back to, because we're talking about the bill too for incarceration, beyond the actual cost of incarceration. And I want you to underscore this. You probably already touched on it, but are there other impacts on our economy?
Absolutely. So, right, that baseline, $47,000, every single person is incarcerated for a year, right? And if that's not enough, what we end up seeing is the collateral consequences of bail and of pretrial confinement. And so the research actually shows that just 3 days in jail can lead to someone losing their job. They can lose their housing, custody of their children, all of the things that continue to kind of snowball and spiral whenever someone is removed from their community for multiple days or even weeks on end. And whenever a person's actually jailed pretrial, they end up facing an average kind of lifetime financial loss of nearly $30,000. Again, going back to those lost wages, the time it takes to find a new job, maybe legal fees to be able to hire an attorney to help them support in a custody dispute as they work to get their children back. And this is money that we end up taking out of our local communities, right? This is money that could be spent with small businesses. This could be money that is spent supporting their children to be able to play youth sports, whatever it may be. That money is best served in the community rather than it being, a situation where those funds are never actually able to be made. And whenever they are made, they're just paid in a non-refundable way to commercial bail bondsman or to a court.
Why, Cameron, why do we use cash bail in America?
we shouldn't, right? Like, we shouldn't.
Right, exactly.
At the root of it, cash bail was initially intended to be a refundable deposit. But what we found is that the cash bail industry is incredibly predatory whenever it comes to taking 10% deposits or whatever the percent may be from a accused person, right? And so we find ourselves in a situation where it is now far more of a means of punishment than it is of release. And so that's why we really try to focus in on paying that full cash bail amount. So that way bail can be used for its intended purpose of it being refundable and it coming back, right? We get that money back when we spend it to be able to support more and more people. But, as an individual, if an individual pays their full cash bail, they get that money back and then they get to use it to pay rent or to keep the lights on or buy groceries, right? But the problem is that bail amounts are so high across America, very rarely is an individual able to afford that full cash bail amount. We know the average person can't even afford a $400 cash bail. So are we sitting with bail amounts at 10, 20, 50,000? For many people, it might as well be $1 million because folks don't end up having the access to that type of resources, don't have access to those types of resources to be able to support a payment of that magnitude. And really, over time, what we see is this wealth-based detention system beginning to develop. And really, that's the front door to mass incarceration.
Yeah, some critics say that we need cash bail for public safety, but I know that the Bail Project, you guys just don't talk without facts. You have data actually showing, they actually show about this. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've been kind of harping on it, but I think it's really important to continue to talk about the fact that few people really understand that paying the money up front for pretrial release does absolutely nothing to limit future crime. With cash bail, the system doesn't really ask, is this person a danger to the community? Will they flee court? It only asks whether or not a person has the ability to afford their freedom. And so when a defendant's ability to pay a cash payment tells us nothing about their risk to public safety, it continues to kind of build this argument of why we're using it. And so we use our data and we use the research that we do to be able to really create and tell narratives and stories about the impact that releasing someone into their community for free has to do, right? We see our clients come back to court at over a 90% rate consistently. This is over the last 8 years of the organization operating. And one of the things that's really critically important is that whenever a person, has the ability to fight their case from a position of freedom, we see them have far better outcomes. So we've been able to pay bail, right, for thousands of people using none of their own money. Why is it that we continue to demand people pay their own money to make it back to court when we see them coming back at such an alarming rate? And the kind of final piece here is there's really no link between bail reform and crime, as I started with. In fact, in many places, they've made really common sense changes to the cash bail industry, right, by eliminating it or producing and creating different ways for people to get out in a pretrial context. And crime ends up being down in those places as well.
Yeah, and you've been able to show that, and that there's cash bail and reoffending and things of that. There's no real correlation, yet you still have jurisdictions who want to double down and triple down. And how difficult is it for you guys to you and others? Because I know you're not the only ones fighting this, but you're certainly at the forefront of it. How difficult it is to get lawmakers and others to really sit down and understand that there's no benefit to this. This is only hurting people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We have allies across the country that we're able to work with, and some lawmakers, are very receptive to the argument and to the facts of the matter, which are it's costing their constituents, it's costing taxpayers a significant amount of money, right? But overwhelmingly, that's not the majority, unfortunately. And so one of the most important things, we'll have some news posts going out tomorrow talking about the impact that it has on the American taxpayer. You can always see that on our website, bellproject.org. We continue to fight to transform this American pretrial system by really making sure that we're eliminating that reliance on cash bail, and proving that far more humane, equitable, and effective pretrial systems are possible. We not only provide the free bail assistance and the pretrial support to these thousands of people across the country each year, but we also are working on that policy arm. We talk about having these conversations with lawmakers, with constituents, being able to build a base of support for something that really should be common sense. And so our bail fund, right, we do that revolving bail fund, we get the money back, we do that. But one of the most critically important parts, the human stories that we're collecting, the data that we're collecting about our clients, that's where our arguments are built. That's where the facts come out. And that's oftentimes what the lawmakers are most receptive to whenever it comes down to what's the fiscal impact, what is this doing to my community members, and what can we do to be able to create a better system.
Yeah, and those human stories you can find there at the bellproject.org. There's some great stories there, and we have certainly been reprinting them at blackpressmediausa.com as well, and other outlets, because they are so important. They're so impactful. You guys have some of the most compelling stories, Cameron. I know that it's it goes with the territory almost, but when you look at some of these stories, Cameron, give me some of you guys' reactions, your reaction to the folks at the Bell Project when you hear some of the clients and their stories. What's the reaction?
Power, right? There's so much power in our communities. There's so much power and resilience in our clients. When I joined this organization over almost 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to go into local jails each and every day and interview our clients, to talk with them, to hear about their experiences, to understand the impact that incarceration is having on them currently in this moment, but also what it's having on their family back at home. On their employer who no longer has someone to be able to come in and support a local business. Those things are devastating, right? And one of the things that has always been incredibly true about the majority of our clients is the resilience that they have, the commitment to showing up each and every day, coming back to court, continuing to work hard, continuing to fight for a system that treats them more equitably, not because of the fact that they, and not just because of the fact that they cannot afford to pay their own bail. And those real life human experiences, moms being able to get back to their kids, brothers being able to go back home and see, and see their little brother walk across the stage at graduation. These are things that are happening every single day. And whenever we continue to put cash as an incentive or as a means of release, right, a price tag on someone's freedom, we prevent all of these wonderful stories from happening. We also prevent individuals from being able to exercise their right to fight their case from a position of freedom and to be participatory in their defense. And we have to put a stop to that. And we have to continue to work towards a pretrial system that doesn't continue to use money as a means of release.
And people have to realize too, Cameron, as we said earlier, first of all, you're supposed to be presumed innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you guys have come across cases where they're totally innocent. They are innocent, not
Mm-hmm.
just a presumption, but they are, which seems to make it even worse. But for those who might be frustrated in seeing their tax dollars used this way, Cameron, what can they do?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is being proximate to the issue, right? Continue to read these client stories and understand what's really happening. Ask yourself, have I been in a situation like that before, where maybe I was having to make the difficult decision between being able to keep the lights on or purchase food for my family, but someone I love, someone I know, someone I care about has been incarcerated, and we've had to make that really difficult choice. So get proximate to it. That next thing is be involved in your local community whenever it comes down to being mindful of who we're electing to be our representatives and to support the work that we do. Ask ourselves whether or not they support and stand for the things that you believe in. And whenever the case is that maybe someone is there that's advocating for, maybe we have a representative that's not proximate to our issues, that doesn't support the type of pretrial justice system that you want to see. Use your voice, right? Be engaged. It's your opportunity and it's your right to be able to share your opinion and to share your voice whenever it comes down to time for, for bills to be heard. Call your representative, let them know how you feel about it. Those things are really impactful and really powerful. I've seen amazing outcomes whenever we've been able to have community members, speak with their representatives, let them know how they feel about a particular issue. Those things are critical. And continue to support the work that we do so that way we can reunite families. It's an amazing opportunity to shake someone's hand, to give them a hug, and to ask them if they need anything whenever they walk out of the jail cell, whenever they've been legally presumed innocent. They've been sitting there for weeks on end. And so we do that work each and every day. You can always support our work at bellproject.org, help bring folks back home, reunite families, and create opportunities for more and more of these amazing stories to continue to be told.
Yeah, folks, the Bell Project's fighting to transform America's pretrial system by eliminating reliance on cash bail and proving that a more humane, equitable, and effective pretrial system is possible. Cameron, great work. Keep up the great work. We will continue to champion your work. We do it every day, just about on Let It Be Known, and we will continue because we think it's so important. So we really thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you so much. Your support is incredibly appreciated. And good morning, all.
Absolutely, folks. And again, stay tuned because next week we will have another guest from the Bell Project joining us to talk even more about how vital this issue is, among other things. So stay tuned to Let It Be Known. And thank you all for watching.
Let's go! Let's go, Flav. Hey!